She rose from the table slowly, almost gracefully, her black dress whispering as she zipped it up with emotion so deliberate it felt like an insult. Then came that smile, razor-sharp, slicing right through me. "Dinner was cute," she said, her voice dripping with mockery, every word meant to humiliate. "Now I'm going to have some pleasure for myself." My fork hovered in midair, my appetite gone. I stared at her, my voice low and steady when I said, "You're not walking out that door." But deep down, something in me already knew I had no control anymore. Not over her, not over us. She turned to me then, her face ice cold, and delivered the final blow. "Touch me and I'll ruin your life. One call, and the cops will drag you out in handcuffs. Go ahead. Try me." Then she was gone, the door slamming behind her, leaving nothing but the faint ghost of her perfume hanging in the air. And just like that, 12 years of marriage were over. Or maybe they had ended long before, and I had been too blind to see it. We'd gone from late-night drives in my old rusted car, dreaming about a future, to buying our first home, planning anniversaries she pretended mattered. I had given her loyalty, stability, every ounce of myself. But love, when it's not returned, becomes a slow, tightening noose. And she had been pulling that rope for years while I stood there smiling, thinking we were still building a life. Looking back, the cracks had been there all along. The late meetings, the hushed phone calls that stopped when I entered the room. The screen of her phone always turned face down. I convinced myself that trust meant closing my eyes. But trust, I learned too late, can be a blindfold, and she had led me straight into the fire. That night, I didn't chase after her. I sat in the quiet, letting the silence settle over me like a heavy blanket. Silence teaches you more than shouting ever can. Around 2 in the morning, her phone lit up on the nightstand. I didn't pick it up. I just sat there, staring at the name that flashed over and over. Ethan. A name I didn't know. A name that called again and again. In that moment, all the pieces clicked into place. The business trips that suddenly appeared on her schedule, the last-minute girls' nights, the way she had gone cold in bed. That dinner had been the final act of a play she'd been performing for months, maybe years. Pain turned into clarity that night. I realized I wasn't broken. I was awake. And I wasn't going to waste that clarity on rage. Rage is loud, messy, self-destructive. Revenge, on the other hand, is cold and quiet. Revenge takes patience. I began with the smallest steps. Her passwords were predictable. Birthdays, our dog's name, lazy variations she thought were clever. Within days, I had access to everything. Her messages, her emails, her cloud storage. And what I found made Ethan look like just one face in a crowd. There were others. A parade of men, each with their own little window of time in her life, rotating in and out while she sat across from me at family dinners, smiling like nothing was wrong. I documented everything, screenshots, logs, timestamps. By the time I was done, I had a file thicker than our wedding album. Then I moved to the money. Quietly, methodically, I rerouted accounts, shifted assets, moved investments into my name alone. She didn't even notice. Her attention was elsewhere. By the time she realized, it would be far too late. The next step was legal. I found a lawyer, a ruthless one, polished and sharp. I handed her the file. She smiled like a predator that had just found easy prey. "This will be simple," she said. And then I waited. 2 weeks later, she waltzed into the kitchen one morning, yawning like a queen returning to her throne, while I sat sipping coffee. She still thought she owned me. She still thought I was the man she could scare into silence. What she didn't know was that my silence was the weapon I'd chosen. That very morning, the papers were served, at her office, in full view of her colleagues. The same office where Ethan liked to stop by. By lunchtime, her email inbox was flooded. My lawyer had sent HR every bit of evidence, neatly organized with timestamps. By 3 o'clock, her mother called me, screaming at first, then demanding the truth. I gave her everything. Every message, every image, every receipt. Her mother broke down sobbing. Her father went quiet. The silence of a man watching his perfect daughter fall from grace. By 5, the locks on our home were changed. When she came back that evening, she tried her key and found it useless. I stood by the window, watching her confusion turn to rage as she banged on the door, shouting my name. I didn't move. That night, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. 156 missed calls. Her voice on the voicemails shifted from furious to pleading. She begged me to stop, promised she would change, swore she still loved me. But betrayal rots everything it touches. Even apologies feel like poison when they come too late. When we finally met in court, she was no longer the icy, mocking woman who zipped up her black dress and walked out on me. She was small, fragile, stripped of her armor, her fancy clothes replaced by something plain, her tongue silenced by the evidence my lawyer laid out for the judge: adultery, financial betrayal, deception. Every piece of it backed by her own words. And Ethan? He disappeared the moment things got messy. They always do. When the gavel finally struck, it wasn't just the sound of divorce being finalized. It was the sound of a verdict. Her reputation in ruins, her career gone, her finances gutted. I walked out of that courtroom feeling lighter than I had in years. She stayed behind, mascara running down her face, clutching papers that spelled out everything she had lost. I didn't smirk. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. Revenge isn't about crowing over victory. It's about walking away without looking back, leaving the person to burn in the flames they lit themselves. That night when she zipped that dress, she thought she was untouchable. She thought she could use the law, my love, my loyalty as her shield. She forgot who I was. I don't scream. I don't beg. I don't fight in the open. I wait. I plan. I end things cleanly. And when I close the door, it stays closed.